Do human beings innately have a hard time accepting unpalatable things, including death, chronic pain, or just infirmities in general? For instance, if you're 115 years old and you're in a nursing home, so to speak, you're probably, I think, going to be able to accept death far better than someone who is 40 or 50 or 20. Why is that? And why have there been a few magnanimous souls, so to speak, who died in teenage years, yet quite content, or accept, say, an infirmity such as Lou Gehrig's disease, or a stroke at young age, or a car accident that maims you? Why can such people accept physical handicaps but not some other handicaps? I believe it has everything largely to do with whether we feel blamable for it. For instance, if a person is walking down the street and a comet falls out of the sky and hits them upside the head, they would say, well, I've probably done the best I could and am not culpable in a court of law or from criticism from my friends and relatives as to not taking enough precautions. In other words, they're not shameable about it. Furthermore, that they would leave a good legacy then if they died by being hit by a meteor. But isn't that the rub then in part? If we die and someone says, well, they died so young or they died so infirm or in such pain because they were foolish not to prevent it, then we seemingly have lost a part of a good legacy in the eyes of others, haven't we? We want to leave a good legacy sometimes, for some people anyway. So thus, I think we want to be regarded, and by everybody, not just some people, as, quote, having done the best we could. I think we might also say thus, so-and-so was not naive, they didn't get caught with their pants down, so to speak, they didn't get snookered, they didn't get taken to the cleaners. They were nobody's fool. All of these alluding, in my mind, to somehow being perfect in that manner. So we can be shamed, so to speak, and quote-unquote then also not leave a good legacy in the eyes of some people if we weren't, you might say, all-knowing. If we were able to spot all deceptions, if we were able to never be snookered, oh my goodness. In fact, there are some who get pilloried or blamed for being too trusting. But of course, what if you're not that trusting, you're very good at winnowing people, but you don't particularly care about people, or you can be kind of have a what they call mean streak. So who's the better creature here on average? Well, isn't it kind of a mix one way or the other? We can't have the cake and eat it too in this regard, I think. That's why we're human beings and not, quote, a god. So this is a rather newer view of mine in the last 3 months or so, at age 62 now. But when we talk of some people wanting to leave a legacy, I think it's not, quote, just of having done great deeds or having benefited mankind better somehow, what the phrase goes as per leave a dent on the universe or make the world a better place than when you came. Strikes me that first of all that would be kind of like throwing a starfish back in the ocean or a grain of sand or a drop of water in the bucket. Yes, nice in many a way for very functional reasons, but at any rate, I think there's something more involved here. I think we want to leave a legacy, some of us, to those who would find it in a certain manner advantageous, others not, to leave this legacy that we're gods or goddesses, that we were able to be perfect somehow. Perfect how? Perfect, I'd say, in terms of not being naive, what you might call it. Perfect to never suffer pain. Perfect to never be decrepituted. Perfect to live at least to the national average lifespan, physically speaking, I'd say of 79.5 years of age or so. You die after that, physiologically speaking, you're blameless, you're shameless after your death. You die much earlier, you're called a fool. You're called someone who couldn't take care of themselves. You're called a pauper. But if everything is determined by the laws of the universe, how can anything be shameful? Thus, to leave a legacy of being perfect is inaccurate, I'd say, to say the least. And some thus would find such a legacy to their liking, and some would find it superfluous, of no value, and again inaccurate. So when we talk of leaving a legacy of this sort, I think we could be fooling ourselves if we think everybody values that as being a great achievement. They might think that's quite fallacious. So yes, to leave a legacy, as Andrew Carnegie did, of a number of public libraries, or to leave a legacy of having solved a form of cancer is great. But by the way, did one person solve cancer, or was it a group effort? Was it everything that went into that person that cured the cancer, by the way? For if they say no man is an island, can the achievements of a person be an island as per saying they achieved it, they cured cancer, they solved world hunger, they did this or that, they made $1 million or $1 billion, they had a great relationship, they saved the country from war, or they ended a war? How can we say they, or I, or him, if it's everything that went into a person? They're an amalgam. Isn't that finally, to end this, why those typically, or sometimes in a sports arena, after winning a basketball game or whatnot, will call in the teammates and give credit to the teammates, or thus credit where credit is due? And isn't thus, as a final analogy, if we have a cake that turned out wonderfully, and we call it what? The perfect cake. Wouldn't it be foolish for the cake to say, oh, I'm a self-made cake. I'm a cake that pulled itself up by its bootstraps. No, the cake is everything that went into the cake, the ingredients, the oven that baked it, the world that housed the oven, and however the world got there. For a cake to say, well, I baked itself, is kind of curious, I would say. That's my thinking then on this matter. And in turn of the topic of what I was originally talking about, acceptance, and tangentially leaving a legacy. What kind of legacy is it we're striving to leave? Is it just to leave a better place, or are we really striving to leave the legacy that we were gods or goddesses? Something that could pull a rabbit out of a hat when it came to our lifespan, especially, how much money we had left or accumulated, our health, relationships, and what we cured or didn't cure, supposedly, or fix. Thoughts here?